Part of Central 70 is closed this weekend. How you can get around it and the upgrades you'll see soon. Plus, prices are so high, more Coloradans are turning to pawn shops. Some ways to put a little more money back in your pocket. And the Tiny House Festival returns to Loveland this weekend. Meet a contractor who went from designing big homes to little ones.
Good morning and welcome to Denver 7 News. I'm Jessica Crawford.
And I'm Katie LaSalle. Thank you so much for joining us. And here are some stories we're following for you this weekend. Today, the city of Denver and Aurora are working together to host a gun buyback event. It will be a voluntary, anonymous buyback event happening at Park Hill Golf Course from 10 a.m. through 1 o'clock this afternoon. You can store any unloaded weapons in the back seat or trunk of your car, so trained volunteers can access them at this drive-through event, and you will receive a gift card in exchange.
Commerce City is warning residents to make sure that their car tags are up to date. Starting tomorrow, police will be keeping an extra eye out for vehicles with expired plates and tags. There is good news, though. You can figure this out from home. To check if your car is up to date, just visit mydmv.colorado.gov. A Berthoud family is trying to build an adaptive park in their community.
And all that you need to do to help is buy some lemonade this weekend. It'll be a good one for it. Lauren and Richard Bowling's son Miles has cerebral palsy, and after realizing there wasn't a playground within 40 minutes of their home that Miles could use, the Bowlings decided to raise money to build one themselves. And if you would like to help, we have all the details on where to find the lemonade stand on our website, thedenverchannel.com, and there you can also donate to our Denver 7 Gives Fund. So let's take you live outside on this Saturday morning, 9:01 over downtown Denver. Sun is shining, a really beautiful start to our weekend. Expect temperatures to be warm once again, climbing to the high 80s, low 90s with a few storms popping up in the afternoon. Westminster, right now you're under a mostly clear sky, a little more cloud cover moving into higher terrain over Rocky Mountain National Park. We'll start to pick up a little more moisture into the mountains after about noon. Your walk the dog forecast by 11 o'clock in the low 80s, climbing to the high 80s to around 90 degrees by lunchtime. See that dip in temperatures by 2 o'clock will introduce the chance for a few thunderstorms across the I-25 corridor, first starting into Colorado's high country, where temperatures are expected to top out into the 70s around 10,000 feet. Leadville at 69 degrees, really hot over southeastern Colorado, and that chance for thunderstorms will arrive mainly in the afternoon hours. It's going to be really hot as we go through the next couple of days. I'll show you the 7-day coming up.
The eastbound lanes of I-70 are closed this weekend in Denver between Washington Street and 270 as we near the end of the Central 70 project. Crews will be realigning the lanes, meaning come Monday, eastbound traffic will use the new tunnel built by CDOT. Then CDOT will focus on getting the westbound lanes in place.
We've been in a temporary scenario for those westbound lanes. We need to undo that temporary scenario, do some rework, and then ultimately put westbound into their final laneage come mid-September timeframe.
The detour will take drivers up I-25 to I-76 to I-270 and then back onto I-70. The final piece of the puzzle is the park that is above those Central 70 tunnels. CDOT says that park will be completed by mid-November, so by the end of the year, the 4-year-long Central 70 project should be completely done.
And in the new eastbound tunnel, you might notice some speakers hanging on the ceiling. Well, there's one speaker for every 100-foot zone, and they will be used if there is an emergency inside the tunnel. So drivers could be told to stay in their vehicles, letting them know that help is on the way, or they could ask drivers to get out of their cars and evacuate the tunnel if need be. Well, so far, the warnings coming out of the speakers have been to the people walking inside the tunnel.
Interestingly enough, what we're using those systems for, mostly during this 1-year transitory period, has been telling people not to walk. Don't be a pedestrian in the tunnels. It is not safe. And so we actually use that public address system to tell folks that it's not safe and they need to get out.
Yeah, don't walk or ride your bike. Project manager Bob Hayes tells us that 3 pedestrians a week just go strolling through the tunnel. They also have people trying to bike through it, so there are no shoulders. As he said, it is just not safe to do so.
U.S. inflation has reached a new 40-year high. This week, the federal government said prices rose 9.1%, putting even more pressure on households trying to buy the things they need.
Right. So people, they're just scrimping on a lot to try and make ends meet. And now more Coloradans, they're turning to an unexpected place to get a little extra cash. Our Denver 7's Veronica Acosta is live for us with how pawn shops are helping people afford to put food on the table and gas in their tanks. Veronica.
These days we're spending a whole lot more on some of those basic necessities. Gas is more than $4 a gallon on average right here in Colorado. Eggs and milk, those are also way more than they used to be. A local pawn shop owner says he is seeing a direct impact of all of that. He's seeing more people come into his shop to try and get those $20 or $30 loans so they can make it to the end of the week.
It's a lot more, I need gas for the week type of loans. I just need a quick 30 bucks, 40 bucks to fill my tank. I gotta go to Castle Rock, I gotta go to Springs, something like that. People just needing money to do their daily commute. You know, pay small bills, get gas, put groceries on the table for the few days before they get their paycheck.
Angelo has owned Pawn King in Englewood for 6 years now. He did grow up in the business, watching his dad own a similar one. He said his shop has always seen its ups and downs with the economy, but really saw it boosted when COVID started. Angelo said at the time they were selling bikes, video games, video consoles as well. Some of those items that people really wanted to help pass the time with. But he says that all changed back in February. That's when he started seeing more people come in for those quick loans, really anything to help them get to work that day or make it to that next paycheck. Now, he said Mondays toward the end of the month, those tend to be the busiest. He said on any given week, he's loaning out thousands of dollars. Sometimes, of course, it can be less than that, somewhere in the hundreds. But of course, he says it's all about helping those who come in get whatever they need to be able, again, to make it to that next check. In Denver, I'm Veronica Acosta, Denver 7.
Veronica, thank you. Got to do what we can to get by. And while most of us can't do much about the price hikes, there are some things we can do to save on groceries and utilities, starting with your electric bill.
Unplug all those devices in your house that are turned off. People don't realize that they're actually using a lot of electricity. The Department of Energy says you can waste $100 a year simply on items that are turned off but plugged in. Likewise, if you haven't switched to LED light bulbs by this time, please do. You can save $225 a year.
And as for groceries, experts say we throw out about 30% of what we buy. So create a shelf in the fridge called Eat This Now. Put the last pieces of cheese there, the last apple, or other items you need to eat before they go bad. And the last 2 nights before you go grocery shopping, maybe have a leftover night, a stir fry or soup night where you'd use everything that's left in the fridge.
Well, this weekend, a beloved festival returns to Loveland that saw more than 35,000 visitors last year. It's the Tiny Home Festival, and we are joined now by the event coordinator, Marcus Alvarado. Marcus, how are you this morning?
Good, guys. How y'all doing?
So glad to be talking to you. So I've gotten to see some tiny houses that are on TV. Really not gotten to see some in person. This is a chance for people to do that.
No, it's absolutely is for sure. It's a great festival. I always tell people it's going to be a different experience when you actually walk inside one of them as well. But not only tiny houses, we're also going to have van conversions, and we're also going to have school bus conversions and some other kind of DIY things that a lot of folks are coming to exhibiting as well. Just think of it as like one of the coolest types of car shows you can ever go to, because all these types of like living structures out there.
Absolutely. Are you seeing more people who are interested in tiny houses these days, especially with it being so expensive out there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's definitely been spurred upon with like the affordable living crisis here in Colorado, especially. But we also have people come from all over the country to this festival, as we're seeing as a nation right now with affordable living and rising rents and rising mortgage rates, right? So yes, it definitely has a lot more traction than it did a few years ago, for sure.
So, okay, so right now we're looking kind of at a schoolie. We're showing some of the very unique tiny homes that are out there. I'm sure that you have seen a lot in your day, Marcus. What's the most unique tiny home or unique tiny house feature that you've seen?
Oh my goodness, there's just so many types, right? You have what we call the THOs. Those are tiny houses on wheels. We have plenty of those this weekend for people to check out as well. And those all have types of crazy things with them. Some of them have like pop-ups that raise up the tiny house so they can actually be 2 stories that will be there at the festival this year. We also have like van conversions and camper vans. Those would be there too. Those are like retrofitted vans, almost taking it back to the 60s, where we had a lot of different types of camper vans back then. Well, that trend's back as well. So we'll have those as well. And then some really cool school buses. They call them schoolies. Those are retrofitted school buses as well.
You know, one of the things I really like about these sorts of festivals is, you know, when we see these on HGTV, we're seeing the very clean, very perfect tiny house with nothing in it. We're actually going to see how people live their lives in these tiny houses at a festival like this.
No, absolutely. And you know what? Those are actually the more fascinating ones that we found from a lot of the crowd who comes, because every little part of their house has a story to it, or they have some kind of meaning to it. So people will be able to really identify with those houses a little bit more than just say like your typical model home or something like that.
Well, thank you so much for chatting with us about this, a super exciting event that people can check out throughout the weekend. Thank you so much. Well, mental health resources becoming more accessible to people across the country starting today. The Direct Impact of Colorado psychologist says that we'll see here in our state.
Plus, one Colorado ice cream shop is offering you a taste of the past and present day. The business whipping up a sense of community for generations with their frozen treats when we come back.